This is TWiT.
Is it time for
Not yet.
Xbox?
It's time for an Xbox.
Scorpio, ladies and gentlemen. This came on Tuesday. This November 7th. This is what we've been waiting for. The Xbox One X, aka, as it says right here, Project Scorpio. I ordered it from Microsoft early, and so I got the special edition. Nothing fancy at all. It just has this written on it. But this is exciting because this is the next generation console. They don't come out. New generations only come out every 5 to 10 years.
They're going to slow down. They're going to slow down.
I think this may be... Anyway, the end of the line. There's the PS4 Pro and there's this, both 4K. We thought we'd get an expert, though, somebody who's played with it for some time on the phone from Polygon, Samit Sarkar. Hey, Samit.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you. Polygon, of course, the preeminent gaming website. Everybody, well, it is. I mean, I don't think that's saying anything out of school. The first thing I guess we should ask about is, how many titles available for the Scorpio, the One X, take advantage of its capabilities, chiefly 4K and HDR?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You have at launch that it just launched earlier this week, as you said. So I think Microsoft was promising something like 70 games in that first week, and they've got something like 160 or more lined up. You know, there are some games that are getting updates in the coming months.
And what I really liked is that some of my existing games are downloading 4K assets.
Yes. Yeah, and so that's something you can do on your Xbox One or your Xbox One S to prepare for the launch of the Xbox One X. If you're planning to get one this week, or maybe for the holidays or Black Friday, or even at some point in the future, you can download that stuff ahead of time, and that way you can just transfer it directly to the Xbox One X. And that stuff will be ready to go.
Now, I enjoy a tech demo as much as the next person. I love to show off something that no one else has. But one of the things for me has always been about the game content itself. I like my titles. I love what I've been playing in the past. Is that going to be jarring to move it over from where I was to a new Scorpio?
It's actually really easy to migrate from an existing console to a new one. Microsoft offers a few different ways to do it. So one is that you can hook up both your existing Xbox and the Xbox One X to the same network, your home network, and then you can just do a direct console-to-console transfer over the network. And you can actually, you don't have to copy the entire thing. You can choose exactly which games and apps you want to bring over.
I got desynchronized. I did, so that's one way you could do it over the network. Yeah. But I did what you recommended at first, which is I went into my Xbox, I had a One S, but you could have an Xbox One, and I said, download the 4K content, and I put it on an external drive. I moved everything to an external drive, which made it very easy to just take the new Xbox and plug in the external drive, and everything was there already, which I thought was great.
Yeah, and what's great about the external system is that you only have to copy it once, effectively. You can copy it to the external drive and then just plug that into your Xbox One X and play everything off the hard drive. You never have to copy it, from the external to the Xbox One X's internal hard drive, because it supports running games directly off the external.
I downloaded a couple of new games. I got Call of Duty, the World War I edition. And then this is, of course, Assassin's Creed Origins. We're in ancient Egypt. They look good. Oh. They really look good. I have to say, what's your favorite for 4K HDR content?
Those are two games that really show off the capabilities of the Xbox One X. I'm a sports guy, so I was checking out Madden Nfl 18.
Oh, yeah, that looks so good, huh?
Looks amazing. That's a 4K. I believe it's a native 4K, and it already ran at 60 FPS. And that's a game where you just see the sun glinting off of the helmets and details like that. It really comes out in 4K and HDR if you have a 4K TV, which of course is, I would strongly recommend that to anyone who is thinking of buying an Xbox One.
In fact, should you even consider the One X without a 4K TV?
Well, honestly, that's how I, in speaking with my editors at Polygon, that's how we approached the review. We wanted to put ourselves in the shoes of someone who was considering an Xbox One X, but maybe hadn't upgraded yet to a 4K TV, which I think is still the majority of the consumer base. They may not have upgraded yet. Certainly, the people who are probably considering an Xbox One X are more likely to have a 4K TV because they're they're sort of on the cutting edge.
Is there a benefit though if you have just an HD TV? Is it faster, better frame rate? I mean, can it do more?
Yeah, so you do definitely get some benefits even if you haven't upgraded yet to a 4K TV. So the number one thing you mentioned, downloading the 4K assets, that's something that you won't have a choice in. If you have an Xbox One X, even if you're playing on a 1080p TV, it's still going to download those 4K assets because what it does is that it uses a technique called super sampling, whereby it renders the game at a higher resolution and then downscales it to fit your screen, and so you still get a higher quality image, even though you're not getting all the pixels per se. It's going to have much better anti-aliasing, meaning fewer jagged edges. Okay. And even beyond the visuals, there, sometimes you'll have games that are way more. Just way higher fidelity, or they'll run at the same frame rate, but it's smoother, meaning there are fewer instances of chugging in the image.
Right.
Or even if you're looking at a game like Gears of War 4 right now, what's really impressive there is that on a regular Xbox One or Xbox One S, the campaign and the Horde mode in Gears 4, they just run at 1080p and 30 frames per second, but on an Xbox One X, it's powerful enough that even, if you haven't upgraded to a 4K TV at 1080p, you can still run that game at 60 FPS. So it's a way smoother, more fluid, more responsive experience if you have an Xbox One X on a 1080p there.
Now, it's interesting because so many people are focusing on the 4K, but for me, the best advance, the one that really makes the most visual difference, is the addition of HDR. I mean, HDR, it changes how scenes look, and it actually makes the old gaming look bad. You realize, oh, that's not HDR. That's not as dark as it can get. That's not as bright as it can get. Is that something that more of the titles are going to take advantage of? Because again, right now there's only a couple of sort of showcase titles. I'd like to see that feature in everything.
Absolutely, and I think it's a little tougher for some of the older titles. In my conversations with developers, what they've said is that you really have to almost develop a game with HDR in mind, because it's a totally different, system. The way it works now is they use a thing called tone mapping, where they're kind of, revising the image to fit the color depth and increased, contrast range that HDR offers. And for some games, like you were showing some footage of Halo 3 there, that's a 10-year-old game. It actually does have a more expanded color palette and better lighting, but they weren't able to do full HDR on that, just because it would have made things look kind of wonky. I think going forward, new games that are being developed from here on out, hopefully we'll see HDR on the majority of those going forward.
Yeah, the developers I spoke with at GDC, they basically said, look, when you go from HD to 4K, it's nice because you can get more detail, but you can essentially sample up your games, because most of them are, you've got the original renders, and making the new content is not that much more difficult. They said, however, when you start making games for HDR, it doesn't just change the resolution, it changes how you design the game. You can do more things if you know you have the HDR capability built in. And they basically said the exact same thing that you did, which is, look, maybe in future titles, but you can't really go back and just add HDR, because then it's just gimmicky.
Although, I have to say, look at this Xbox 360 version of Halo compared to the One X version of Halo.
Oh, I want to go play now.
Yeah.
Now I can get fragged in high definition and HDR. I used to be good at that game, and then I got old, and now I'm just a target.
People are recommending Forza also. Madden 18, but Forza also. See, I'm not a sports gamer or I drive for, as an adult, I drive. So, but it looks good, I have to say. It really is pretty impressive.
Yeah, and going back to what you're saying about benefits on a 1080p TV, even if you don't have 4K, you'll still benefit from much shorter loading times.
Yeah, that's big.
In our tests, because I believe it has a 50% faster hard drive than the previous Xbox One X versions. There were some games where load times were cut in half or even better. I saw a colleague post a video of, actually it was Madden. He was loading into a franchise mode game, and I think the Xbox One, the original one, it took like a minute to load into a franchise mode game, and it was 20 seconds on the Xbox One X.
Now,
1/5
the 1S, was it a 5,400 RPM drive? Do you know what the drive is in the Scorpio?
I'm not sure. I don't think they've released the specific.
I don't think they've said,
specifications for it. But
it's not an SSD, alas.
Can I mod it to add
I
an
want
SSD?
you to put an SSD in.
Oh, let's do. I would so do that. Are you kidding me? We actually had a good question from our chat room. Beatmaster was wondering about this. You know, of course, the experience is going to be online. Is there a competitive advantage to having a more powerful console? I mean, even if you're not taking advantage of HDR and 4K. A faster console that has less lag, that loads more quickly, do they need to do anything to nerf those people who have faster hardware?
No, I think what the developers that I've spoken with are doing for the online games, you know, Destiny 2 is one of them that they're going to update next month to support the console. They always want to maintain the integrity of the online experience no matter what you're playing on. So, you know, there's no difference in terms of the experience you get. They're not separating out Xbox One players from Xbox One X players, and that's why a lot of people were wondering with a game like Destiny 2, which, if you have a PC, that game looks incredible on a PC, and you can run it at 60 FPS or even up to like 144 FPS if you've got the monitors to handle it. But the Xbox One X is probably powerful enough to run Destiny 2 at 60 FPS, but they just wanted to make sure, because they were going to have people playing on all different kinds of consoles, that they wanted to keep it at 30 FPS, so there was no advantages on either side.
Yeah, but it makes sense. I mean, it does make sense. I mean,
that's why I play single player only. I don't want to play online ever. Hey, what about the PS4 Pro? That's a 4K device as well. And of course, as we know, Sony and Microsoft in kind of a bitter war, although Sony's been winning all along. How does it compare? Do you guys look at that as well? You're not just an Xbox guy.
No, not at all. And, you know, in the games that we've seen so far, I think Microsoft's promises have been borne out. They've delivered on the promises, you know, to say that multi-platform games, they will look and run better on the Xbox One X. It's simply a significantly more powerful device than the PS4 Pro. I think what people have to decide for themselves is, you know, is it that much more powerful? You know, more powerful enough to justify the cost, because it is $100 more expensive than a PS4 Pro. But
you know what you get for the $100? You get a UHD Blu-ray player. Right.
That's true.
To me, that was important. That's my Blu-ray player, my UHD
me too.
player.
I've actually been buying up some 4K Blu-rays in the past year because I knew I was going to get an Xbox One X. You know, unlike you, I didn't have an S because I knew the Xbox One X was coming. But most people I know, they don't care about 4K Blu-rays. They're not buying physical media anymore, right?
Yeah, that's true. Alas. But it does look a lot better than any streaming 4K. Well, I'm looking at the iFixit teardown of the Scorpio. It is a 5400 Seagate, 5400 RPM Seagate drive. So it's not a faster drive.
We could really fix that.
It's faster because it's a faster processor, and you know, it's an interesting question on a device like this. How much of the load time is hard drive access, and how much is it, you know, moving stuff around, putting textures in memory, crunching stuff, and you know, decompressing stuff? I imagine it's a lot.
They've done a really good job of balancing that, so it's loading throughout the level. It's not going to chug you. You do have a slightly longer load time, but I mean, if you can deal with a slightly longer load time, there should technically be no difference between a 5400 RPM and an SSD once you get into the level.
Well,
so
yeah, once you're
that's the cost.
It's got a lot more memory than the previous Xbox One X versions, and you know, they, from what I understand, they've added some that, you know, basically there were developers who were like, well, we had this extra memory that we didn't really know what to do with, so we used it for, you know, storing assets and things like that, and caching, and that really improved their
makes a
load
difference.
time.
8-core system on a chip. 2.3 gigahertz is a lot of horsepower.
You've got a Scorpio pin. We were at PepCon and they gave you
I forgot my Scorpio
pin.
I should have worn it today.
I gave mine to Alex.
Yeah. So this is pretty powerful. I shouldn't say that the competition is just the PS4 Pro. It's also PC gaming. How close does this come to PC? If I had a high-end gaming PC and Call of Duty World War II, which would you play on?
Well, this is the thing with the Xbox One X that, you know, we're getting at here, which is that I think for people who are asking for a simple buy recommendation, a yes or no, it really is going to depend on your personal preferences and your setup, and there's so many caveats and so many, well, if this then maybe. For example, I have a gaming PC. It doesn't have a super powerful graphics card in there, but for me, I spend 9-10 hours a day at a desk. I don't want to come home and then keep gaming at a desk. I want to sit on my couch where I've got a 50-inch 4K TV instead of my 24-inch 1080p computer monitor. And so, I like playing PC games, but I prefer console gaming for that reason. However, it's not a stretch to say that for most people who've got a high-end gaming rig, they're going to get a higher fidelity experience. Even if they're not running the game at 4K, they're going to, most games they're going to get 60 FPS out of on a PC. And there are some games that do that on the Xbox One X. Forza, as you mentioned, that's one of them. 4K 60 FPS native, as far as I understand. But I think for more people who are into high-end game, PC games, they really prefer the fidelity of the frame rate more so than the resolution. So even if they're playing at 40p or 1080p, they really want that fluidity of 60 FPS.
And this is 60 for most games. By the way, there's the pin, Alex.
Oh, it's
Alex,
so cute.
Isn't that nice? And it says on the back, it says, I was there. I launched the world's most powerful console.
You got to have the bragging rights.
Is it the world's most powerful console, Samit?
Yeah, I think that is a fair thing for Microsoft to say. It is more powerful than the PS4 Pro, and I think we're seeing a shadow of war here. That's one game where apparently it looks significantly better, than or looks or runs better than the PS4 Pro version in a way that's sort of noticeable.
Yeah.
And so, I think for people, a lot of them are wondering, well, the multi-platform games, yes, they'll run better, but maybe I already have a PS4 Pro. Do I care about Microsoft's first-party games? And that's where I think Microsoft is lacking. At this point, they don't have the first-party lineup that has really resonated with people. Gears 4 was pretty successful last year, but and Forza is a perennial top-selling game, but it's racing, which is a pretty small niche there. If you look at Sony, they've had some huge successes with games like Horizon Zero Dawn earlier this year and The Last Guardian last year. I think Microsoft said recently that they are renewing their investments in first-party development in their own Xbox exclusives, and so we'll have to see what comes out of that over the next few years. Certainly, Halo 6 is coming at some point.
That's one thing that's really been different in the last two launches from Microsoft. In the past, you'd choose a console based on exclusives. Right. You say, well, I want Gears of War, or I want Uncharted.
Right.
And so that would make the decision for you. But that's not really been the case with the One S or the One X.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, yes, this is by far the most powerful console on the planet. The question is,
does it have the games you
matter?
want? Yeah,
I mean, people are playing for the
if
games.
You want to play Uncharted,
that's why Nintendo Switch is doing so well right now.
Yeah, right. If you want to play Zelda. But somebody's saying, and this is a sad statement, that the PC version of Call of Duty World War II is slowed down so that it will be on parity with the console version.
You have to do that.
That's not.
If you want cross-platform multiplayer, you have to do that.
I guess. All I can say is playing World War II in my recliner, 8 feet away from my 70-inch 4K UHD display, is the closest I'm ever going to come to Omaha Beach. It is an amazing, that would be a game in itself. Just getting from the landing craft up the beach is, I have yet to succeed. And it's really hairy, but it's very realistic. And I think it gives you an appreciation on this Veterans Day for what the greatest generation went through.
Oh, visually, yes. I will not compare.
No, I'm actually not going to get shot, but it's pretty hairy. It's a really amazingly vivid experience, and I was playing a little bit of Assassin's Creed Origins, and I have to say it's the most fun I've had at playing Assassin's Creed in a couple of generations. So I'm thrilled. Let me put it that way. I'm happy with it, and it sounds like it's a good purchase, but it's not an obvious purchase. It really depends on a lot of other factors, as Sammy has pointed out. Read all about it. Samit Sarkar at Polygon.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Which one are you playing tonight?
Oh, me personally, I was playing Wolfenstein 2 actually just before we recorded the show.
Achtung! I'm old enough
Carry
to
on,
have played
sir.
it on an Apple II when the Nazis couldn't really talk because they didn't have a voice generator. It all sounded like that.
I had it on a Nokia phone.
Did you really?
6380.
Wolfenstein? Wow. Samit
That's the thing.
Sarkar, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
Nice
Take
to
care.
talk. Nice to talk to you.